Righto guys, so I did film a training video yesterday, thoughts on training knives and a bit of sparring and training. I'm doing this again, so it's the next morning and the sun's really hard, so I apologise if I can't see everything and give you good detail because I can't see the screen because of the sunlight. Anyway, so what I got here, these are what I use for my training. I got 3 cold steel trainers and the 2 PVC plastic ones. So if people are going to play knives or think that they're going to have a knife for self-defense, or actually I think everybody should be well-rounded in self-defense anyway. That's using your fists, your feet, your knees, your elbows and your head, teeth, etc. As well as firearms training, just everyday implements that are around the house, knives included, hammers, whatever. Just be, you know, because most attacks with weapons aren't necessarily 2 men having a planned duel, which that's probably actually never the case. It's usually someone trying to get an upper hand, and that's why they haven't a weapon. So what happens on the spur of the moment that counts. And if someone surprises you, like I read in one of the comments on Donnie's channel, old mate used his level on, sounds like a construction site, to beat the shit out of someone who was armed with a knife. So that's how it comes, you know. Situations anyway. I was in a fight with a bunch of younger football players, but you know, a pack of them, and I went to break the fight up. Then someone started throwing punches and headbutts at me, and then I ended up fighting with him. And then we ended up on the ground, and I don't know how many of them were punching and kicking into the back of me. Let's just say that old mate got a sore finger. Something to do with teeth. Anyway, when that sort of fight got broken up, as I got to my feet, there was someone bobbing up and down in front of me. I lost my glasses. It was at night time, and I'm pretty much a blind mole, you know, and I couldn't see the knife, but old mate was jumping around in front of me with a knife, and just lucky one of the guys that was backing me up had a beer bottle in his hand, and he smashed the beer bottle in old mate's face, like threw it, and that ended that situation. But I was about to start punching into this dude because I couldn't even see the knife. So that's how weapon attacks happen, I reckon. It's usually a coward who you know, needs to resort to weapons. So, and they're sneak attacks. And okay, so where a lot of my so what I done is I've been around some martial arts guys. I went and did some martial arts that were supposed to do a fair bit of knife and sword sort of stuff, and I used to clash with the instructor a lot, because far too much of it was choreographed, you know, and I didn't agree with what he was saying. He wanted to do the ice pick grip and do a lot of this sort of stuff, like getting in close, doing all your Wing Chun sort of moves, and parrying and cutting in the back and hooking over and getting in nice and close, and not interested, okay? So from a lot of the historical, whether it's European martial arts or whether it's the Jim Bowie story, or a lot of accounts that are especially from the American Wild West, a lot of those are talking about big Bowies, big Bowie knives, and fencing kind of style sort of fighting. So that's the path that I started to go down. And when I bought the big cold steel trainer, my mate that I used to spar with, we both went to the same martial arts group, and we both had these. So before the class one day, we got these knives out and we started sparring in front of them, but using our style, not theirs. So we were doing the basically semi-fencing sort of style, standing behind the knife and using the knife's the advantage of having a knife, which is distance. And it boggles my mind why people want to get in close. So I can totally understand why law enforcement and military do that, because they usually have other weapons, primary weapons. They might be clearing a room and they have a jam, a failure to feed or something like that. They don't have time, they just got to pull this out and then go straight into it at very close quarters. Even though knife fighting usually is at close quarters, I don't think this is what I'm trying to get at. And Donnie touched on this as well. It's not knife fights, it's a fight involving a knife. So, me standing here trying to do these like little Wing Chun sort of combat moves, that's no interest to me. I don't want to be, ideally I don't want to be there. If anything, I'd rather pull something out and you know, keep them at bay, use my knife to stand. That's my shield, standing behind the knife as far as I'm concerned. In an ideal world is where you want to be. That's your shield and it's also your attack. So everything's done from this. All the other parts of your body should be behind the knife. And but of course, don't exclude kicking. And a lot of this combat stuff, close quarters combat, military sort of combat, and some of the veterans and military guys that I've had experience with as well will tell you there's no kicking and things like that involved. Where one thing I did get from the martial arts sort of guy that I was training with was short little Wing Chun. I just call them Wing Chun kicks, but you know, jam kicks or something like that. Not big like kickboxing side kicks, or yeah, maybe a push kick, a jam, front jam, that's alright. But I like to go lower, because the jam kick, you can aim for their knees and their legs. So if someone's going to kick you, bang, it's not so much to hurt them or disable them, it's to stop them in their tracks. If they're lunging forward, bang, you hit their shin, they stop in their tracks. And but they're also very good for balks, because that you can do them from the front foot or the rear foot, and they're very fast. You're not trying to lift your foot up high to the head or to the midsection where your leg could be caught or cut. What I'd prefer to be doing is balking, and if their hand goes down, that's when you can strike. Or I like the OK grip, that sort of grip. Okay, just on here. This is how I use my hammer at work, so I do it all the time, and it feels really comfortable for me. And yes, some people will say it can get kicked out of your hand. Yeah, but by a really good guy who does martial arts and does a lot of fight training, it might get kicked out of my hand. However, I'm going to try my hardest for that not to happen. And what I also find is the better martial arts people out there, the better trained people out there, they're not the bullies of the world. They're not the grubs. They're not the pieces of shit, oxygen thieves that we're going to encounter in the self-defense situation generally. Okay? All the toughest guys I know that do the most training and who are the most prepared to fight, they're controlled. They got a controlled mind, they use controlled aggression, but they're not the shit starters, they're the finishers. So I don't believe that we need to train for them. Okay, what we need to be prepared for is the shit cunt. The piece of shit who has to sneak attack you, or he's mental and he's running down the road just having a berserk crazed attack, you know. That's who I'm sort of training for. And I've found, and here's a little tip for you guys who don't have someone to spar with, is I like to fire up my misses. So I'll get 2 of these, or I'll get 2 of my training knives, and this has worked really well, and it's proven old mate up there who does the martial arts that most of his shit doesn't work. When me and my mates, we'd be able to do the sparring and the training up there, and it would work really good on each other. But then I come home and just try and do basic moves on my missus, and it doesn't work because she's not attacking me in that choreographed way. If she's not throwing like an awkward punch that no one would ever throw in their whole lives, and go, oh, you know, sure, I can go boom, 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 boom to that, but when she's just wildly swinging and kicking and thrashing around, or lunging at me, those sort of things don't fucking work. So, and this is where I was clashing with old mate up there. When we would have a knife, when we were doing our knife drills, it was always holding the knife either A, like this, going, ah, here I come, choreographed move, and then you go, oh, you know, nice coming, boos, boos, ugh, you know, that's bullshit. No one is ever going to attack you like that, and that's where I used to clash with old mate. And he didn't want me coming back. He accused me of like trying to take over his classes. But what's the point in doing any training if you're never ever going to be attacked that way? You know, most attacks will come from, you know, maybe the knife's up the jumper sleeve or something like that, or the knife's hidden behind their back, they're standing on an angle to you, and then just attack, or a big frenzied, you know, lunge. So where I got a lot of my, what would I call it, not intel, information, I actually went onto these websites, you know, the gruesome websites where you see bad car accidents, people getting their heads cut off, and murders, and just terrible shit. There was crazyshit.com and Best Gore. I used to watch those a lot. Not because I get a hard on over like all that sort of shit. It's because that's what happens in the real world. That's what nasty people are doing. So, and if you go onto those sites and type in like, I think there's just a heading knife or something like that, or knife attackers, and you'll just see there's hundreds or thousands of videos of people being attacked by people, and there is never, I don't think I've never seen two people facing off with a knife. It's always usually a sneak attack. It's always a sneak attack, usually with a pocket knife, or if it's someone going berserk down the street and they're crazed, mental, or something like that, they've usually got a big knife, because they've got a plan to go out and attack people. Same with all the Muzzy attacks and that in all the different countries of the world. You see them, and they're not skilled knife fighters. They've just got big, they call them hunting knives, but they're usually fantasy knives. Just a big knife, and they just go around and they're just chopping, slashing, stabbing, ice picking whoever they can. They're just random targets, and a random sheep, the ones that stand there going, oh my god, ah! They got no idea what, there's no fight back, and that's the continuous thing that you see. Most people don't fight back, they end up dead, and humiliated, because a lot of these crazed people, they will do a sneak attack on you, and as you're sort of choking, they might give it to you a couple more times, but they'll stand over the top of you and spit on you, and, you know, basically parade around the top of you like they're a big hero, where they just done a coward attack on you. So this is where situational awareness is way more important than how you hold your knife, what type of knife, what brand it is, whether it's a fixed blade or whatever. It's about like, fuck off, mate. Don't let people get too close. If they're walking in a direct line and they're coming and they look like they got a determined look on their face, just grab something. Just be. There is no reason for someone to walk straight towards me. Like, so I'll leave this part of the. Yeah, I'll cut it off here.